I'll let you all vent for a wee minute or two before I get started. You know, that seems like probably the best approach to go with. For the first couple of minutes, just go, fire on. Fire on. Take your time. Don't mind me. I'll let yous go. What a night, eh? What a night. Embarrassing. It's one of those nights that you just want to get in the bath, unplug the toaster, plug it back in, chuck it in with you, you know? Good night, Vienna. All those problems and the toxicity that reared its head last week after the first leg when we failed to get the job done have popped up again. And this time in an even more toxic fashion. And it's going to be toxic. It's going to be horrendous. And I think tonight, more than anything, I wanted to avoid defeat more for that reason than I did failing to get into the Champions League. Because I wanted this toxicity to vanish. I was hoping that Celtic could move on with their business, qualify for the Champions League, make some signings, go into Sunday with a bit of confidence about them. Result dependent, maybe even kick on from that on Sunday as well. And I hope we'd be able to maybe move forward with the next few months of the season, criticising the board as we should be, but while also backing everybody involved on the pitch and you know, the fans could all be one as unison. But instead what we've got is a situation which is self-inflicted. And I think the phrase comes to mind, you know, fail to prepare to fail. And that's exactly what has happened at Celtic Football Club this summer. A side that has regressed at a level I've never seen Celtic regress at before. In the space of, and by the way, we're talking about a 6-month regression here. We're not talking, you know, years of decline or years of regression. We're talking 6 months from when we were all on top of the world and a last-minute goal destroyed us. A goal that somehow still brought positivity out of the Celtic fans. A goal that made us go, you know what? Some backing in the summer. Some positivity moving forward. Some ambition amongst the club. And we'll be able to kick on. We'll be able to move on. And instead, 6 months later, what we are sitting here doing is moaning, crying, shouting, bawling, and staring down the barrel of one of the most humiliating defeats in the club's history. The most humiliating two-legged defeat in the club's history. The only thing that comes close is, of course, Lincoln Red Imps back in 2016, which Celtic managed to, you know, go and through in progress and over 2 legs. We couldn't do that tonight. We went to Kazakhstan. We made life difficult for ourselves. And even in a game where we should have been winning anyway, we make it even worse by crashing out of the competition. That is where we've got tonight through negligence, through poor decision making at the club at all levels. And I'm running out of things to say. And I don't want to sit here and sound like a broken record. Trust me, I thought about just patching down a video tonight. In fact, I decided to go down the live stream route because I thought that one of the only options that I had to keep myself somewhat sane was get this done and over with inside 20 minute, 30 minute and not have to edit a thing. Because if I had to talk for 20 minute, 30 minute to this camera and then sit and listen to myself talk for another 20, 30 minute editing it, I might have been in Carstairs. You know, I could have been fucking admitted to Arkham Asylum if I had to do that. So I've decided to go down the live stream route, get it all off my chest, see what some of you are saying, and I'm sure we have lots to say between us. I mean, there's already, inside the first 5 minutes, over 1,000 people piling in here to talk about what I've called, and what I'll stand by, the worst game of football I have ever seen. There's changed my mind. It looked as though there was, after the first 2 penalties, we were staring down the fact that it could have been a 0-0 penalty shootout the way the penalties started. Well, lucky a couple of them hit the back of the net, but Kairat were the ones that managed to hit the net more times. And so here we are, Europa League Celtic sacrificing millions of pounds sacrificing a full summer of waiting for no reason. I mean, just think about it. If Celtic done their business and we went about things with due diligence and went about things seriously like a professional football club at the level Celtic should operate, we might have qualified for the Champions League tonight. You know that? But instead, we have to watch Yang and James Forrest and Tony Ralston and Liam Scales and all these players who are so far out their depth that are nowhere near good enough to play for Celtic. And that's where it gets us. I made the joke on Twitter earlier that if Brendan Rodgers managed to pull us through to the Champions League with the team that was on the pitch in the second half, I would have went down to play at Build the Statue at Celtic Park myself. I won't need to do that because we're out the competition, but nobody is exempt from criticism tonight. It's disgraceful in all areas across Celtic, and it makes you feel like you need a new lease of life at the club, a new freshness. Now, that is not me saying that we should go and sell all our best players, that we should go and sack the manager, that we should go and do this and that, but there is what feels like a parasite that exists at Celtic Football Club right now, draining the life and soul out of the very club. And we all know where it stays and where it all stems from. It stems from that boardroom, a boardroom that has let us down not for the first time, but for the umpteenth time over this past 20 years. But it feels like across all levels in this tie, from the players on the pitch, to the manager in the sideline, and to the board in the stands, we have been let down greatly, and we have been sold up the fucking river. Some of those players on that pitch tonight looked as though they never played football in their life. The tactics were dry, not very inspirational, weren't inspiring a change or a motivation or a confidence that something would happen through the game. But I think first and foremost, what we know most importantly, and what we know, and this isn't, and listen, I've already seen people rushing to, take this excuse away, and it's not an excuse. But ultimately, why we're here is for the regression that we have seen with that squad. We haven't replaced Kyogo. We have lost 80 plus goals in that Celtic side, and we haven't replaced him. And the only guy who, if I was him, Michel Ange Balikwisha, the only guy who's been brought in to try and change that over these next few days, if I was him, I'd be checking the departures gate at Glasgow Airport to get in the first flight out. I wouldn't be wanting to sign for that after I've watched that performance. He's probably been sitting somewhere in Celtic Park tonight watching that game with some of the higher ups, some of the staff at Celtic, and he must be thinking to himself, what on earth am I doing here? You know? Fans have travelled and put their... fans have paid upwards of 2,000 quid to go to Kazakhstan to watch that. And what have they been given back by the Celtic board? Over 300 Celtic supporters travelled 5,000 miles effectively to be given that shite. To be given a serving of shit soup with a side of a shit sandwich. And we are constantly... It feels like we're allowing this board to take the absolute mickey out of us. But hey, listen, game of football's done now. We're in the Europa League. They get the reward. They get what they gambled. They get what they wanted. It feels like that there has been a deliberate effort by the Celtic board to land us in this very situation that they are now. They gambled. They put the club's reputation on the line. They put the club's status in European competition on the line. They put fan happiness on the line. They gambled all of that, and this is what they get right fucking back. And we should be making it very, very fucking clear over these next few weeks, over these next few games, and when we return to Celtic Park after the international break, exactly what we think of these absolute fannies that are running the football club. These absolute fucking imbeciles who are draining the enjoyment out of following Celtic Football Club, who are rinsing us for every last fucking penny that we have. Because it is tiresome to be here going backwards at a point where I think the supporters ideally want us to move forwards, and where we actually do believe there's a chance of moving forwards. The fact that we are here now is just a kick in the stones to everybody who cares about the club, innit? I certainly don't want to be sitting here having these conversations, but here we are. but here we are. There is so much that we have to talk about. There is so much we have to cover. I don't even know how we're going to get through it. First of all, thank you to everybody who's donated so far. Thank you to all the channel members who are in there as well. And thank you if you're just watching in general. Hit like and subscribe. That would be nice. Yeah, where do you begin on a night like this where you have watched a game of football that has no real talking points? A game of football that has nothing to actually sit down and digest or analyse, you know, because it's a game that offered so little in the way of entertainment, a game that offered so little in terms of quality, and I think that, you know, Celtic as a team just looked so unlike themselves over this 2 legs, yet also familiar when it came to big occasions in European qualifiers. We managed to play a B team against Livingston on Saturday, that looked far more capable of getting a job done than what some of the regulars did tonight. You know, and that's so frustrating. And I mean, you've got to give... I mean, I can't go through this whole match reaction without pretending that Kairat Almaty didn't put up a hell of a fight. They did. Enjoy the Champions League, lads. Yous are the ones that deserve to be there. 100%. There's no two ways about it. If there's one of the 2 teams from this tie that deserves to be in the competition, it's Kairat Almaty. The rest of Europe will be dreading the thought of drawing them away from home and doing that same journey that Celtic have had to do, but they deserve to be in the competition, and I wish that I could sit here and act surprised or shocked that it's happened, but across both legs they were the far better team. Fair play to them. But my God almighty, what we offered in terms of footballing ability in this game, in this tie across both legs, was pathetic, and players and the manager need to be questioned. And I don't think any one of the 2, player or manager, should take more of the blame, because both need to do better. Some of those players looked as though they couldn't be bought. And we'll get started on individuals. We'll talk about Maida. We'll talk about the captain. We'll talk about Yang, for fuck's sake. We'll talk about all these players. But everybody is as culpable for that. Nobody should be getting an easy buy off this. They shouldn't be getting, kind of taken to the side and excused for the time being. No. We've been let down by professional footballers who are levels above the team that they're playing. There's no excuse for the level of performance we're seeing. I don't care how tough it is to play them at Celtic Park when they're parking 10 men behind the ball. I don't care about the altitude difference and the fucking time zone difference going away from home. Losing's one thing, but losing in the fashion that we did is another. I would be perfectly fine with losing the game if we peppered them with chances, if we were hitting the post, if the keeper was having an extraordinary game and Celtic were just plain unlucky. But Celtic weren't unlucky. Celtic got exactly what they fucking deserved. And for players that are on thousands of pounds a week to give as little as an arse as it looked as though they did, it feels like you're getting fucking spat on. And nothing's changing. You've got a manager on the sideline who's been too stubborn in his tactics to actually change something as well. You know, all the problems are fucking coming together and serving up what is just a disgrace of a performance to watch. The first half in particular was really, really poor, incredibly poor. But it looked as though players out there either couldn't be arsed or just simply aren't good enough. If you had to have a licence to play football, Yang Hyun-jun would have his fucking revoked. He is so far off the mark. I'm surprised he is a professional footballer. That first half performance is some of the worst footballing I've ever seen. He's not the only one though. Benjamin Nygren, who is somebody that I've been quite excited to see, and I think has played relatively well since coming to the side, hopeless in the midfield today. The midfield performance in general was so bad. It was non-existent. And I don't think there's anybody that exemplifies that more than our captain Callum McGregor, who should be holding his head in shame throughout this next week or so, who should be going to Ibrox with a real question about that performance, a real question about his own performance and his own inability to strike change in the game. For somebody I love so much, and I don't question his commitment to the club and his ability at this club, because he is unbelievable. But to go hiding in these big games, which he so often did this past year, when you think about derby games and you think about European performances and you think about this tie in particular, you're hoping for somebody like him to drag the midfield through the worst of it, and he's not there to do it. And that rubs off on the ones beside him. That rubs off on Rio Hatate. That rubs off on Benjamin Nigren. The midfield didn't have any ability to strike change in the game. And some of them are struggling to take a first touch. You know, and what hope, I put this tweet up during the game, like, what hope do you really have if your players can't even take a first touch in the park? And it felt like that tonight. I don't know what it is about them across both legs, but all football and ability that they once had seemed to have vanished out his ear or something, all of them. In the first half performance, we did nothing to strike any. I mean, we went into, I think most fans in this live chat right now, and most fans who are watching the game tonight will be in agreement that by the time the game was kick-starting for the second half, we had no hope of finding any goals. And we don't have enough. And this is the thing. This is the way that the way that this Celtic squad has been mismanaged and neglected. You're getting to the 60th, 70th minute and looking at Shin Yamada, Callum Osmond, Johnny Kenny being your options to come on and change a game for you. What on earth has happened? What have we done? What went wrong? Why? How have we went from some of the great players we've had this past decade to that as the options? And I'm not wanting to hear any of this nonsense about like, oh, you know, Shin could be the one to change the game. Kenny could be the one to change the game. These aren't the guys that should be in the position that they're in. You know, and I don't blame them themselves. By the way, this isn't a dig on these lads who I hope go on to have long and fruitful careers at Celtic. Let me make that clear right now. I would love it for them to come on and be players that we can trust over these next 3-4 years. But these aren't players that should be in the position that they're being depended upon as game winners to get you into the Champions League. You know, there's been better players that we've been linked with throughout this window. There's been better players that we've been linked with over the past 18 months. And the club have just straight out rejected and decided not to go for. And then you're left with the shite that you have, you know? And then obviously you go into the second half, you know, you get a terrible, terrible performance again. Look as though you're never going to score. You get a couple of chances. The indirect free kick. I've not even touched on that. How? What were we watching? Seriously. Like, I have never seen anything like that happen in a game of that magnitude. You know, sometimes, like, you know, the concentration goes out the window if you're 3-4 goals up to the good and you might do something daft and you look back at it and you laugh and you go, what a daft moment. No, I'm looking back laughing at thinking, what in the brain melting God is happening? You know, it almost feels like players are genuinely losing their marbles as the game goes on. I don't know if it was the altitude doing it to them, but it's what it felt like. And then we have to talk about the likes of Dyson Maeda. This is like a rabble more than anything else. I mean, where do you begin the day like this? There is no structure to a match reaction lesson. Don't worry, I'm going to get to your comments and I want to hear what you lads have to say, and I'll just reply to some questions, some points of view. Dyson Maeda missed the shot that should have won the game, and we would have been having a very, very different conversation right now if he scores that opportunity. Now, let me make it clear. I don't want to put the blame on Dyson Maeda's shoulders for Celtic not qualifying. That's not Dyson Maeda's fault that Celtic are in the Europa League this season and not the Champions League. It's not one man's problem. But Dyson Maeda has seriously let the side down tonight. And by the way, thank you to everybody donating right now. I'm going to try and get round to them. So please bear with me. I'm going to get to all these donations and comments after I get through the ranting part of things. Dyson Maeda has looked amateur this season. And he has missed one big chance too many. One big chance too many. He scores that, we're through. And he's the last player on that pitch that I had confidence of scoring that opportunity. I love Dyson Maeda. I love him to fucking bits. But good God Almighty, he's gone the right way to make me change that. You can't keep getting away with missing chances like that as a professional footballer, as a professional forward. Fair enough, if it's big Liam Scales going one-on-one with a keeper and he misses, Okay. I'd still expect him to plant that, but okay. But Daizen Maeda, the top scorer at Celtic last season, missing chance after chance like that, not for the first time this season, not for the first time this year, is criminal. And he cannot be excused. Some seriously uncomfortable conversations have to be had about Daizen Maeda at this moment in time. Because at what point do you excuse form for the bygones of a potential purple patch season? He has been so far off the mark. But once again, I'm not hitching the blame on Daizen Maeda. The blame shouldn't lie on his shoulders. He shouldn't be in the situation that come the 80-odd minute of the game, his one-on-one against the keeper is what's deciding a tie against Kairat Almaty. No, of course not. Celtic should be goals to the good at that point, across both legs. But those chances are criminal to miss. It's amateur hour. And it's the kind of thing that if it happened anywhere else, you would laugh at from the outside. You would question a player's ability from the outside. And it feels like him, amongst others, have just mentally checked out. But we've seen it from Maeda before. It's not new. He done it when he was at the peak of his form last season. You know, these are chances that for some reason he can't take. But there was too many big misses tonight. There was too many big misses across areas of the park. There was too many mistakes. Offensively, there was too much negativity. Tactically, Rodgers needs to hold his hands up and take a huge share of the responsibility as well. I truly feel sorry for him not having the squad to his disposal to do what he wants to do. But at the same time, this is a squad that should be beating Kairat Almaty. And whatever the game plan was for Brendan Rodgers in this tie against Kairat Almaty, it didn't work. And it didn't show any signings. Any signs of change. And that's disappointing and concerning for a number of reasons. So, you know, there's just so many things that Celtic need to look at. And I don't know, what concerns me most is now, how do we move forward? How do Celtic move forward into the next stage of the season? How badly does not qualifying for the Champions League affect our season and affect what the plans were for the next week of the transfer window? That's what really worries me. And, you know, for example, we heard the story about Calvin Stengs, who, I don't even want to get started on him. It was a non-starter in the first place, it felt like. But, you know, just let's use him as an example. If he's the kind of player that Celtic were banking on Champions League qualification before going to get, why should the people at the hierarchy of our club be employed? Why should they be receiving hundreds of thousands of pounds to run this football club and bonuses to run this football club when they're running it very, very poorly? No football club operates on a what-if bonus. They do things so that what-ifs don't have to exist. But at Celtic, for some reason, the stinginess and the sheer stupidity and inability that exists among so-called qualified businessmen is banking our football club's future on what-ifs when these what-ifs shouldn't exist. It's painfully backwards, it's painfully destructive, and Celtic's going to go nowhere with these fucking criminals in our boardroom. And I said this a million times before, I'm somebody that sat there in the rooms at fan media press conferences, which I've not attended for I think more than a year now, for more than one reason. But this is why. Because I feel like we're just being sold by fucking charlatans. And it's frustrating. Supporters are all saying the same thing. The supporters are right. What's the famous saying in business? The customer is always right. Well, clearly to this fucking board, we are never right. It's just them and their fucking expensive suits and Rolex watches sitting in their fucking comfy executive box laughing at the fucking rest of us as we shell out our wages every year on this club to get fucking nowhere. You know? But we've paid the price. We are where we are. And the Europa League will have to do. Which, by the way, is not going to be a success for Celtic. There's nothing in this next week that's going to happen that gives me confidence that Celtic are going to do well in the Europa League this year. I noticed a number of times across this pre-season people commenting and saying like, oh, I wouldn't mind if we went to the Europa League. That, you must feel daft now if that was your opinion after watching us get beat off somebody like fucking Kairat Almaty. You know, I mean, it can't get much worse. But I don't know why you'd want to be in the Europa League. We aren't going to finish top 8. You know, we'll be very fucking lucky at this rate to even get through to the last 32 round or whatever it is, you know, the playoff round. We'll be very, very lucky. I don't have any faith. I don't see why I should. Not be given any indications to be faithful about it. A couple of players coming in over the next couple of days isn't going to change my mind. Yeah. Just not good enough. Not good enough at all. Across all areas of the club. And I'm saying, and I'm not meaning to single somebody out here, so I'm not going to say their name because that would be unfair, because I'm not taking a dig at the person that said it, but like, you know, saying to me, use my voice to tell people not to buy the Europa League package, it doesn't fucking matter. And that's the sad thing. I don't know what can be done to change things at this club, but it doesn't matter, because if I don't buy my Europa League package, or if you don't buy your Europa League package, some daft cunt is going to be there to buy it when you don't. There's going to be people ready to buy those packages. There's going to be a list of folk ready to get it. And I can't stop them. And nor should I stop them. If you want to go, go. I'm going to go. Of course I am. Because I love my football club. I love the players. I love the manager. I don't love the people running the club. And I want to be there to support them. And I shouldn't be at the point where I'm needing to consider, oh, everybody boycott your fucking packages. It shouldn't get to that. But here we are. You know? But nonetheless, God, I have yapped. I want to get some of your points. I want to hear you. I want to reply to some things. This is probably going to go down as the longest match reaction I've ever done. And I know that there'll be a few Rangers supporters, which I can already see in the chat. I see Union Jacks flying. Tommy Robinson's impact is unmatched. You know, I'd see Rangers fans in here, and I know I'm going to end up being on fucking TikTok or whatever tonight. It's all part and parcel with this game. I fucking love it. It's why I do it. I've been doing it for 10 years, and that's why I'm number one. But need to be, sometimes on nights like this, you have to be a bit braggadocious. But I know I'll be clipped and all the rest of it. But what else is there to be said? You know, I'm just saying what's the way it should be. And Rangers fans would have a cheek anyway. You can't win a fucking league game. And I get it, they're revelling in the very little joy that they get nowadays, but, you know, that's that, I suppose. Right, I've got a lot of donations to catch up with, and I've got a lot of things that are being sent in the chat, and I want to get to as many of them as I possibly can do, so I will try my absolute best to get there over this next 10-15 minutes, and we'll get so many opinions if we can. I need to catch up with a lot of the donations, and my chat only lets me go so far up. So Alistair, thank you for the £2 saying board players, manager ought to blame, respect champions. Yeah, well, I mean, nobody's exempt of blame tonight, are they? Joseph Coyle donating a £5 with a lot of people agreeing on what he said. Lawwell, Desmond and Nicholson are the parasites running this club into the ground. They need to go. The Green Brigade were correct all along, and I would be very, very inclined to agree with you, Joseph. I don't think you've said anything that is wrong there. John Keenan with a $4.99 as well said the board despise us. They'll take our money, but they hate us. Our demands, our expectations, our politics, they hate it all. They are the very definition, let me take this away a second. They are the very hypocrites that go against everything that Celtic Football Club was meant to be. A club that was founded on charity, a club that was founded on selflessness, a club that was founded on community and fans and people and the poorest of the poor. And now we have the richest of the rich fucking bleeding us dry and taking our money. They are the hypocrites that exist within our boardroom, killing the very joy that is Celtic Football Club, and that's what pisses me off about them. It pisses me off greatly. So they do despise us, at least. And do you know what? They'll come out and they'll say, AGMs, we don't despise you. We'll look at this. And do you know what the first thing they'll always say is, look what happened to the team across the city. You know what? Look what happened to the team across the city, by the way. Are you not glad that you're not like that? It's their fucking, they hide behind the same fucking excuse every year as soon as you start to criticise them even slightly. You know, oh, we're not like Rangers. Okay. Well done. You got a fucking medal. Every other club in Scotland essentially hasn't been like Rangers. We might go and applaud them as well. Yeah, it's bizarre. Jordan with a $4.99, thank you, mate. No comment underneath it though, so I'm sure you're scunnered like the rest of us. Caffel, thank you for the £10, mate. You're never guaranteed to win a game of football. That's why we watch it. They played well. They've done what they needed to do. Now we know where we are. We need to go and get players in. Thank you for the donation, Caffel. Once again, can't disagree with anything you've said. The question is, how difficult will it be to actually go out and get the players in that we need? You know? How difficult will it be to actually bring in the players that are the required level? How many are going to be turned off the fact that we aren't playing Champions League football? And how many are going to be turned off the fact that we've just lost to a side that is ranked at number 430 in Europe or whatever it is? You know, this is like panic station stuff. And like, it feels like, you know, part of me wants to sit here and go, there's no point overreacting. There's no point this or that. But I can't. This is the reaction that's warranted when you lose to a side like that. And I mean it with all due respect to them. I wish them the best of luck in the Champions League, by the way. They deserve to be there. But, like, what on earth are you meant to say other than stuff like this at times like this when you should be beating these teams by goals to the good? You know, it's frustrating. There's been so many other donations that I haven't even got to because my chat doesn't let. There's been that many comments that I can't even go back to like the first donations that were made in the stream. So if you have donated, please let it be clear that I appreciate it so much, and God bless you, put it that way. And if you have something desperate to say, just please keep piping it in. Marcus, genuinely sack. Can I just say on nights like this as well, I've said a few comments about this recently, especially in the videos where I've had to be a wee bit more ranty. YouTube isn't a platform where I need to censor what I say. People have commented before about how their kids watch this. I don't want to teach anybody how to look after their kids, but don't let them go on YouTube if that's the case. I'm not going to censor myself for anybody. I will swear this is how it's ran here. And I will try and maintain professionalism along the way, but I'm never going to change myself for anybody, so I just want to make that clear. Marcus, genuinely sack every... I'll leave it out on this occasion and start again. What an absolute embarrassment. Been pished since Munich. Rodgers' system becoming too tedious and predictable. I think that's a big narrative that I'm seeing online as well about the third season syndrome that exists within Brendan Rodgers' management. It happened his first time at Celtic. It arguably happened his first time at Liverpool. His only time at Liverpool. It arguably happened at Leicester. I use these words arguably very lightly. It wasn't very argumentative when they were sitting near the relegation zone, Leicester, or in the relegation zone. Rodgers needs to do something. The system is becoming tedious and predictable, and I love him. I don't want him to go anywhere, but I want him to make changes. You know, both things can be right. Both things can be right about wanting to back and see the manager succeed, but things can also be right about him having to change stuff and deserving of criticism. So absolutely, Marcus, there is an element of truth to what you're saying. Joseph, thank you for the £2 saying I won't be surprised if Brendan walks. I think Brendan made it clear that he won't walk. But the thing is, what I will say is, if he was to do it again, I'm not going to get angry at him. And I'm making it clear right now, don't expect me to make a video. If he walks mid-season, which I don't think he'll do. I think he'll see it out. I think he wants to make up for what he done wrong the first time he was here, right? But if he was to hypothetically walk away, I'm not going to make a video calling him a rat. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's a scumbag for walking mid-season. I'll understand it. I think that any man that is being managed by Peter Lawwell, Michael Nicholson and the rest has the right to walk whenever they want to walk. But I don't think he will do it. I wouldn't be overly stunned, but I don't think he will do it. I don't think he'll walk. I don't think he should. I think that he's somebody that should use the damage that will be done to his ego to help push us forward and do something special this season. Look, I've made it clear, we aren't going to do anything special in the Europa League right now. We aren't. But if he can use the motivation to try and inspire something like that, then I think he should stay and try. You know, I think he should stay and try, but it's not going to be easy, and I don't have much faith that will happen. Thank you to Martimus Prime, saying Rodgers needs to go at this point, along with Captain Passback. See, this is why I hate nights like this, though, because I understand why you're saying that, Martimus. I'm not going to sit here and call you an idiot for saying that or anything like that. That would be completely unfair of me. But I don't like nights like this because, you know, this is when you get the stuff about, you know, big question gets raised about Callum McGregor, one of the most successful captains in the history of the club, to go as well. And I don't want to see Callum McGregor go, and nor do I think he should. But he needs to have a serious look at himself and see what he's doing wrong as well. I think that on nights like this, it's hard for Celtic. Thank you, by the way, Martimus Prime, for the donation. I think on nights like this, it's very difficult to look at what can be done between staying and leaving, about staying and moving on. I think it's hard to acknowledge that there is genuine improvement that can be done, and that there is actually this ground between both things that can invoke change. I think that some people always look on nights like this at, like, well, if it's like this, it's going to stay like this, and there's just no acknowledgement that things can change and get better. And can I make it perfectly clear? I don't think that's. I think that's fair. I don't think that's a. I don't think you can be blamed for that, is basically what I'm trying to say. I just don't like it, because there is obviously something that McGregor can do to be a better player, to improve on what he's done wrong, and there's things that Brendan Rodgers can do to improve on what he's done wrong and to do things better. You know, there is that ground in between that it does exist. It is out there. It exists. But on nights like this, I think it's so easy for fans under the reaction of it all to forget that can happen. And you can maybe paint it down. I see the word overreaction being thrown out. You can say that it's an overreaction. 100% you can. But at the same time, it's warranted overreaction. Once again, I'll use the phrase, both things can be right. And on nights like this, I think fans are more than entitled to have feelings like that. Ray saying, remember when we had a striker that used to score for fun, was our best player? Surely we wouldn't sell him and not replace him immediately. Never mind 7 months later. And that's, I say that my dad... I don't know many people that are bigger Kyogo fans than Father 118, the old man. He is a Kyogo mega fan and was devastated when he left the club. It was everything about football that my dad loves. You know, the hard work rate, the paciness, the movement, the finishing ability. My dad loved him. And every single Celtic game I watch with him now, since the departure of Kyogo, the same sentence is uttered: I can't believe we let him go. And here we are, without a replacement. There was no striker there today that was going to invoke serious change. I can't be arsed either, Alex, by the way. I've just seen your comment. I can't be arsed either. Sequoia, thank you for your extreme generosity, by the way. That is very much appreciated. God bless you, Sequoia. On a night like this, it ain't easy. Look at the others. This look at the other side of the city pish needs to get so far to fuck. Look, in Europe, teams in countries like Belgium spending more. This go on a Europa run. Think again. Club haven't won the playoffs since 2017. Never mind knockouts. Yeah. Once again, I can't disagree with a lot of the thoughts flying about in the chat tonight. I can't disagree with that. Yeah, we're being outspent by Wrexham Football Club. We're being outspent by Derby County. We're being outspent by university sides in the continent. This is a Celtic... I mean, I can't say it more than I've said it. Like, I'm verging on giving myself a sorry. I can't... There's over 2,000 of these right now. I don't know how you haven't clicked off yet. Maybe you're getting good entertainment out of it. But... for a club that flaunts and gloats and doesn't shut up about how much money it's got sitting in the bank, to spend 3 million quid of it with a week to go in the transfer window is criminal. It feels like legalised robbery. That was the term that I used earlier to my dad. It feels like legalised robbery. They have robbed every penny out of this football club and kept it and hoarded it for some unknown reason, maybe to benefit the bonuses they get at the end of the year, but to spend 3 of that 70-80 million quid that they've been gloating about the last couple of years, it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. Totally and utterly inexcusable. Joseph again donating. Thanks, Joseph, mate. Please put the bank card away, son. I don't want to be held accountable for a skint month, but I appreciate you, Joseph, and God bless. You're a good man. I will not be surprised if Boys Celtic and the Green Brigade boycott the next couple of home games. The Green Brigade and Boys Celtic are the heart and soul. Yeah, once again, hard to disagree. I don't see them boycotting as of now, but I mean, at what stage do fans need to take protesting to the next stage? It seems like our voices are being ignored. What do you do to get them listened to? It's really, really difficult. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Ronan, as well, saying, honestly, I feel that Vickers needs to go. More mistakes now. Vickers had a really poor game tonight. No getting away from that. I mean, there was no... Let me make one thing clear. There was no good performances in that part tonight. Not one. I don't know how you can excuse anybody, to be fair. I think there was a couple of... Well, actually, no, I take it back. Colby Donovan. I feel... Actually, Colby Donovan. a young guy who came on and showed more desire in the game in 15 minutes than most did over 2 legs, over 200 minutes of football or whatever it was. You know, young Kobe Donovan deserves a real credit to his performance tonight. But aye. To talk about Yang, I mean, how the fuck Yang didn't play well, I don't know. I mean, he had that good spell when he was getting his whole off his misses when they brought her over for South Korea. You'd think he'd have played a bit better being closer to Seoul than Glasgow, but hey, here we are. You know. Yeah. It's good venting, isn't it? This is generally the longest match reaction I've ever done. But this is the thing, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. In the 10 years that I have done this now, it's the worst result I've had to talk about. It's easily the worst result I've had to talk about in the 10 years that I've done this, you know. And that's why it's so long. I mean, how do I sum this up on a 5-10 minute video? I don't. It's basically impossible. Thank you, Matthew. Genuinely, I would rather you ran the club than Dermot Desmond. I think I'd give it a good go, Matthew. I honestly do. I'm not a businessman. My degree's in journalism. It's not in fucking business. I'm not going to pretend. I've got a higher in business, if that helps. I've got an A at higher business. If that qualifies me, then get me in the fucking boardroom. I feel like we could take 10 people out of this live chat tonight and we'd do a better job at running Celtic. I really do. I really, really do. Megan, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. We never replaced Giacomakis, Abada, Starfelt, Kyogo. Took 1 year to replace O'Reilly. It took 18 months to replace Jota, and the replacement was him returning. And the same can be said, I suppose, if you want to extend that even further. It took us 6 years to replace Kieran Tierney, and we replaced him with Kieran Tierney. So what you're saying, Megan, is bang on the money. Serious questions across multiple different areas of the football club need to be asked. You know, there are people working in the recruitment department that are stealing a fucking living and a wage out of this football club. And do you know what? Honestly, sometimes I feel like I need to bite my lip about the recruitment, because I'm like, are they just being held back? There's a small, and maybe it's a naive part of me, there's a small part of me that believes that these people that do, over the years, we've had Nick Hammond, we've had Lee Congerton, we've had Mark Lawwell, and we've now got Paul Tisdale. A small part of me believes that they are actually sitting down with a list and they're going, get them, and the board are just going, got cheaper ones there? Nah. Where's the sales page? Where's the voucher code section? You know, a small part of me believes that might be the case. You know, and these guys are actually okay at their job. But I mean, at the same time, is there any proof to suggest that they are actually good at their job? I don't know. Thank you for the donation, though, Megan. I really do appreciate it. And thank you, Graham, once again, for the extreme generosity. Kun, Jota and Kyogo, a loss of possibly 50 goals in a season. The board is to blame. Did the lack of signings get in the player's head? I mean, the lack of signings shouldn't get in the player's head. At the end of the day, they should be going out there and focusing on the game itself and the game of football. But Graham, I think that you're right about, you know, once nobody's exempt of blame tonight. I'm seeing people painting this thing about me being, I see a couple of comments in the chat about the Rodgers propaganda artist that I am, and I love Brendan Rodgers. I think I'm quite right to love him. He's delivered unparalleled levels of success to this football club that I'm very fucking generous for. Delivered some of the best days of my life, but I've not put him to the side and said he's free of criticism tonight. Absolutely not. No chance at all. But I mean, the fact that he has been given a fucking barrel of shite to work with this summer doesn't make his job any fucking easier. Yeah, they really should be held accountable, the board. There's 100% no doubt in my mind about that. We've had 45 minutes in a match reaction, by the way. I hope this has gone long enough that people just can't be arse clipping me, to be honest. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in, by the way. We are about to hit the 52,000 subscriber mark. Which is absolutely nuts. Joe saying that's the worst result that he's seen in the 57 years that he's watched Celtic. Lawwell is a disaster for the club. He needs to retire. Came in and ambition has gone out. Don Mackay is sacked for signing players. Yep. We can stop dancing around this whole Don Mackay thing, can't we? Like, I think we all know now, and I think the rumours have floated around everywhere. People know that Don Mackay was hounded out and huckled out this football club for probably just having a bit of ambition behind him. I think we all know that. You know, I think we all know that. And it's no coincidence that a certain PL returns to the club and things go down the fucking drain again. We've been... Do you know what? The funny thing is, it's crazy that we would be having this conversation probably multiple times over these past 3 years if it wasn't for automatic qualification. You know that? Crazy. Crazy. And I tell you one thing. Ange wouldn't have got through tonight either with that squad, I don't think. I don't think he would have. Because I just don't think there's players in there to inspire enough inspiration in the front line. I really don't. Probably would have got more chances in the game, and actually, I take it back, probably would have went through. But the squad is shit. It's really, really shit. It is really shit. Marcus, thank you for the $4.99. Thank you, Marcus. To be clear, I was not putting sole blame on Brodge. Don't worry, I didn't think you were. 80% of it is with the money grabbing thieves upstairs. Time up for Specky, Sunbed, and Co. and Ida. Ida, yeah, listen, I mean, 4,000. By the way, we've got 4,600 live viewers, which is absolutely insane. Clearly doing something right on here, aren't I? Yeah, listen, on the topic of Marcus's comment and his donation saying time up for Ida, we haven't even spoke about him tonight, who has really, really dug himself the biggest hole that I've seen any Celtic player dig themselves in recent years. There is going to be a real long road to recovery for Adam Ida. And there was actually a moment in the game when he was on in the second half where I thought he looked a bit sharp. And it was when he sent the crossover for, I think it was Hatate. And I was like, Ida's coming on and doing something, that's good. And then it just vanished. And then he misses a penalty. The guy is in his own head. And I don't see much of a future for him at Celtic if he can't get out of it, to be quite honest. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that, Kevin Garvey. I appreciate that, mate. God, so many things to touch on that I feel like we haven't even touched on. You know that? I feel like there's so many things in that game tonight that I haven't even managed to scratch the surface with. Because of the amount of ranting and dissecting that we actually do have to do. So I apologise if there's anything in particular that you keep putting in the chat that I don't see, because there is just so much. And here we are. There was not one moment in the game that made me feel like we're doing something so depressing. Yep. Didn't have any faith. And do you know what summed it all up? Do you remember the meme of like, or the clip of the guy Lee from Arsenal Fans TV? And I think they're watching like the England game or something, and Harry Kane scores, and he sits like, hold on, I'm going to give you a bit of perspective here. And he sits like that. He sits like this. Because he's refusing to celebrate an Adam Ida goal, a Harry Kane goal. See when Dies and Maida broke through 1-on-1, this was me. My dad's up on his feet expecting a goal. I'm sat like this. I knew he was going to miss, and it would have went for most players. I had no hope we were putting that ball in the back of the net. Absolutely no hope whatsoever. So, you know, it sums up a lot of how we're all feeling right now, I think. So I wish I was being held captive, and if that was the case, I might have missed the game tonight, to be honest. Is there any world in which Rodgers stays past this season? Absolutely not. I don't see it. I don't doubt it. And as much as I love him, I think... But this is the thing, right? I want to say this sentence about like how I would love there to be like a fresh era at Celtic. But see, when I say fresh era, I mean everybody. I mean fucking Desmond gets to fuck. Lawwell gets to fuck. Nicholson gets to fuck. I mean all of them, right? I mean like all of them. And then I wouldn't mind maybe Rodgers gets his plaudits, delivers more trophies, goes on or rides off into the sunset and goes on to his next venture, right? I wouldn't mind it, but we're not going to get that. We're going to have Nicholson and Lawwell and Desmond next year. So what does it fucking matter, you know? What does it matter? And they'll end up giving fucking Neil Lennon or Scott Brown the job next year. That's what makes it worse, you know? But aye. Need a captain that gives players a bollocking and shows anger when we're playing poorly, like Calmac, but he's too soft with shit players. Yeah, if I was Kieran Tierney playing on that left hand side with Yang tonight, I would be like, there is no way that he would have walked off the park in one piece. You know, I swear to God, I'm bad enough shouting at my mates at fives if they're playing shite. And don't get me wrong, I'm shite, but like, you know. No, he won't. If we don't beat Rangers on Sunday, Rodgers will not get sacked. I mean, I know we're having a bit of a rough night, but let's not say things that are ridiculous. He's not going to get sacked on Sunday, no matter what happens. You know? Calling out for a hero, Eddie Howe edit. It's at that time. We're getting Eddie back. There's actually a chance we spend less than 10... Think about that. Can we just look at Ryan's comment for a second? Channel member Ryan Can. There's actually a chance we spend less than 10 million quid this summer. That is just insanity. Insanity. Like, absolute... It's ridiculous. Less than 10 million. Like, what has happened? And, you know, that's what they'll use as their excuse now. We've given them the excuse. You know, we've given them the excuse at the AGM to stand up and go, well, due to failure of qualification, and their fucking daft Newton Mearns accents. I apologise to anybody for Newton Mearns, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. And their daft fucking accents, like, well, due to our failure to qualify for the UEFA Champions League, we actually spent significantly less than we were expecting to spend this summer. When the fact of the fucking matter is, it wasn't spent by the second leg of the qualifier anyway, which is a week before the window shuts. You know? But oh well. Yeah, 210 minutes of life wasted across both legs of the game. Listen, I mean, I'm approaching the end of this stream. I'm not going to go any longer than an hour because that's fucking ridiculous, isn't it? It's ridiculous. I've reached 52 minutes, but there's so many points and so many comments to get to. But you know, the thing with me is that I try my best. And I try my absolute best to stay positive through the worst of times at Celtic. And I think the thing that always carries me is like, because I know for as bad as it can get, there has been far worse. And I know for as bad as it can get, it will get better. You know, like, I know it will. I know that in 4 years' time, I'll be looking back on this and going, mind that time we failed to get to the Champions League because of Kairat Almaty, and we'll be in the Champions League and we'll do whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I try my best to be so positive, and I really don't want to, like, end the stream negatively. But there is very little positives to take out of tonight's game. And if you can name them for me, if anybody wants to attempt it in the chat, feel free. But I really, really fail to see where they come from. You know, I don't know what it is. And I know that there will be a few kind of, like, happy clappers out there that are like, oh, it's fine, we'll beat Rangers, which I'm not convinced we'll do. Like, oh, we'll beat Rangers, we'll go to the Europa League, and it'll all blow over. But the fact that that is the level of success that some fans are happy with, fuck, Jesus Christ. You know? Why are people still greeting about me swearing? When did people get so offended by swear words? Maybe they grow up in Billy Connolly, just me. Is that the only one showing Billy Connolly growing up? Christ. Bloody hell. Fucking phone Ofcom if you've got a problem with it. Oh, God. Right, how do we wrap this up then? How do we wrap this up? I don't know where we go from here to finish off the last 5 minutes of this stream. I love that. I love that. Do you know what? Do you know where the positive comes from? Actually, I'm so glad that I could give the Rangers supporters a bit of positivity for the first time in their lives for fucking 5 years. You know, that makes me happy because I'm all about. I love spreading joy and happiness. I'm a very happy-go-lucky guy. I like being nice. I like being nice to people. I love people. I love talking to people. I love making people happy. So if I'm making Rangers fans happy for the first time in a long time tonight, there's where I'll take my positive. I suppose that's where my positive will come from. But aye. Anyway, I think I might wrap it up there. I mean, what else can I even say? You know, thank you to every single person. By the way, to have 6,500 live viewers is absolutely insane. And thank you to everybody who's donated. Thank you to everybody who's hit the like button. And thank you to everybody who's commented and gave me a great laugh tonight. I apologise for anybody I've offended through my harsh choice of words. I don't know how else to disguise it all, to be honest. So thank you, I appreciate it. Celtic are in the UEFA Europa League this season. We'll still be here to comment through every game, and I have very little hope of true success in the Europa League, but who knows? Maybe we'll get there. Maybe we'll do something.